You are now listening to the Two Dads Run podcast. Just two dads who run, talking about running and being dads and some other stuff.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Gray.
This is Kevin.
And we are your hosts for the Two Dads Run podcast. Kevin, man, how's it going, dude? How's everything?
It's going good as always. Yeah. Anytime you do ask me, you know what? I'm not sure if I'll ever say, it's shitty, man. It's fucking horrible. But no, everything's going great. Everything's going great. Just coming off the 4th of July holiday weekend. Yeah, been watching, the time trial or the Olympic trials. Been watching
the tour. You've been watching the Tour de France a lot.
Been watching the tour.
I've actually watched a little bit of it too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
That's good.
It's good. Well, have you learned anything? Have you started to kind of understand?
Oh yeah, I've started to understand that these guys are freaking animals, and they're just like casually rolling down the street at 45 miles an hour, like brushing their teeth.
Jeez.
And whenever I get like to 30, I'm about ready to crap my pants. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how casual they are at those insane speeds.
There's always a debate as far as who is what sport is the most elite type athlete or has the most elite type athlete. You hear rugby players, hockey players.
Dude, hockey's pretty gnarly.
Swimming, swimmers. And then you forget about these cyclists. I mean, they're doing 100 plus miles, and depending on where they're at, in on the different stage per day.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on. So we have that going on. We have the Tour de France. We have the Olympic trials just wrapped up. So a lot of awesome performances, some records being set. We had Sydney McLaughlin in the 400-meter hurdles, which was incredible. And I don't know if you're aware, but her time of 51.9 seconds, right, for the 400-meter hurdle. And the flat 400, the regular 400 on the track, for women, a 51.9 would have qualified you for the Olympic trials. I mean, that's how freaking fast that she ran a 400 hurdles.
That the hurdles weren't even hurdles to her.
Yeah, right. It's just insane. Then you obviously have the controversy with Sha'Carri Richardson being suspended for 30 days, ultimately costing her a chance to run the 100. And it just came through about 30 minutes ago that she was not selected to run in the 4x1 because that was still a possibility. But now, no Sha'Carri Richardson at the Olympics at all.
Yeah. Granted, our opinion doesn't mean anything. Our opinion is just our opinion, but very curious on your thoughts on that, on everything with that.
I mean, look, if you want to smoke weed, fine. All the power to you.
Yeah.
I know it's becoming legal in a lot of states. I think North Carolina is very close behind in that regard. I saw a poll today where it was like 45-1 of people that support the legalization of medical marijuana here in North Carolina. So look, if you want to smoke weed, that is totally up to you. You're an adult. You can make your own decisions. Do you, boo-boo. However, if you know it's against the rules and you do it anyway, you got to accept the consequences, which to her credit, she did do. She owned it 100%.
Yeah. Respected the hell out of the way she was
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think too much in our society today is that no one wants to take accountability, personal accountability for what they've done, right? Yeah, you have the freedom to do all of this, but that doesn't mean there's not consequences. Mm-hmm. And then unfortunately for her in this regard, and unfortunately for the world, we don't get to see this gigantic personality run super duper fast down a track. Now, would she have won gold? Maybe, maybe not. She's pretty terrible out of the blocks at an international level. Her top end speed is elite, obviously, but she's not great out of the blocks. And I'm gonna go blank. Fraser Price from Jamaica, she's pretty money. So I think she's probably the hands down favorite for gold in the 100. But still, I mean, some other surprises. You had Ingles not making the team in the 1500.
That 1500 team or that 1500 finals was just stacked.
Oh, it was money.
I mean, you just knew someone was gonna get their heart broken.
Dude,
I didn't expect Ingles though. I really didn't expect him to.
And honestly, I mean, I think it was a lot of humble pie for him, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I'd be
Because
scared racing against him
leading
now.
up to the final, he was pretty dismissive of some of these younger kids. He's like, yeah, I'm not even worried about them. I'm just going to go out and run my race and blah, blah, blah. And I know a lot of athletes would say that kind of stuff. I'm not
He
worried
was
about
talking shit.
But he was. I mean, he
Centro
was.
yeah.
I mean, Centro can do it. Centro has a gold
But I
medal.
think they were talking like mad shit against each other for a while there too.
Who? Centro and
Ingalls.
Well, yeah. I mean,
But-
there's
go
it's
ahead.
kind of that natural rivalry, but Centro can do that. When you have a gold medal, you can say whatever the hell you want at that point, right? To anyone in the field. And I think with Centro, it was a lot of back and forth with Cole Hawker, the kid out of Oregon, who ended up winning the trials. And so he doesn't have the Olympic standard time, but he'll more than likely get in just based on his world ranking.
Doesn't he have North Carolina roots?
I'm not sure.
I feel like
Craig Ingalls does.
Ingalls does.
Yes. I
feel
don't know
like
about Hawker. I feel like that might be a stretch.
about that time where we want my laptop to just
open the
'cause it's
Google
gonna
machine.
just kill me. But yeah, I know that was kind of neat. But then I saw it was kind of neat to just kind of track that to see what the other countries, their athletes were doing. And it was a done deal. I think by the time, was it like Spain or something? And they just didn't even have enough athletes participating.
I don't even care about them.
I
It's
know,
all
that's
it's
what
all
I'm saying,
USA
so.
all the time, baby.
But it's just kind of neat how all that works. I mean, yeah, USA track and field looks to be pretty dominant. And, you know, my thoughts on, I hope that, yeah, granted, it's a rule.
Sorry, I didn't let you voice your opinion
I know,
on Sha'Carri there.
so
My
I'm going to
bad.
ask the question myself. Kevin, how do you feel about it? You know, it's a good question, Kevin.
Shortest question you've ever asked anyone.
Very true. I hope it starts to get the, you know, because with a lot of these rules, like the, you know, the internet, the Olympic Committee, there's just, you know, so many things that just kind of need to adapt with time. And, you know, I'm not trying to open up Pandora's box on what I'm talking about, but in this specific case with cannabis, so with marijuana, it's not performance enhancing drug. As you mentioned, it's becoming legal. I think, you know, people need to, in these, I mean, you see what's happening, I think, with, you know, the American pro sports too, as some of these rules are becoming a little bit more lax, like in the off season. And then, you know, you've got specific states that it's, you know, it's, you can do it for medical and recreational. Anyways, I'm sure people listening that know more about what we're talking about, they're like, oh, you guys have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, no,
But
it's
I
a
hope
very
it actually creates some type of awareness that, like, all right, some of these rules need to change. I saw a post where, because again, you know, marijuana not performance enhancing, but what would happen if, what's the hot dog eating contest guy, Joey Chestnut? Like, what if Joey Chestnut did it? You know, would he be now? Because that's actually a performance enhancing drug for him. So, I mean, something you got to think about.
Well,
you know, like,
because there's no difference between a hot dog eating contest and the Olympics, but sure.
well, it gets. I mean, I can.
I understand. I understand the correlation there. I mean, and I get it. Again, it's not a performance enhancer unless you're looking at it from a recovery or pain management standpoint, which is what you hear a lot from the NFL guys and stuff like that. But again, you know, I don't care. Smoke it all you want to. If you know you're getting tested, you know the trials are coming, and I understand she went through a traumatic experience. I mean, she found out from a reporter that her biological mother had passed. I mean, that's
horrible.
That's a pretty tough pill to swallow, and especially when you've got a microphone in your face. So I understand the trauma behind it, but still, at the end of the day, she broke the rules, as archaic as they may be, and as unfair as they may be. She still knew they were there. She knew what she was doing. So
the Olympic trials we've been talking about, you got to see some swimming.
I did see a little swimming, but I mean, dude, I was just glued to the track.
Yeah.
And the women.
I think the women's track and field got a lot of good attention. And hopefully they keep it up. Granted, us having daughters, it's like, I'm pulling the girls like, no, look what you can be doing.
Well, we've talked about this, you know, talking to Kira. I feel like her name gets brought up on every show, but she is the absolute one of the best human beings on the planet. Yeah. I mean, no doubt. So, but you know, when we were talking to Kira and some other guests, that the state of women's distance running right now is just incredible. I mean, watching some of these women, some of these just super inspirational performances. I'm drawing a blank on the girl's name. Abby, I'm forgetting her last name, but when she went out in the semis, the prelims, and she didn't have the Olympic standard, so she went for it and just destroyed the field. And I think it was the 5,000, just destroyed the field because she was pushing so hard to get the Olympic standard, and she got it. She did not end up making the team. She ended up finishing fourth, but what an inspirational story and an inspirational race to watch. You had Ellie Purrier, you had all these amazing performances from some of these distance runners in the 1,500, the 5,000, and the 10,000. Just amazing performances by our women, and I think they are going to have quite the haul in Tokyo in like 2 weeks, dude.
That's coming up. That's coming up soon.
Yeah.
And speaking about what's coming up, we just finished the 4th of July holiday.
Hell yeah.
That was good. I think for both of us, but this weekend is kind of like our holiday. You excited, man?
Dude, excited is not the word. I'm so stoked. So what we are doing, do you want to tell them?
No, you go ahead.
All right. So what we are doing is we are driving up to Baltimore for Believe in the Run, for the launch of their new headquarters on Eastern Avenue in Baltimore. And they're going to have a 5K. They're calling it a fun run. We'll see. I'm kind of hoping a couple folks throw down some serious times, but they're going to have a fun run. They're going to have ASICs out there doing some shoe demos. Excuse me. They're going to have a taco truck that also does popsicles. And the owner of the truck said she was going to do a special popsicle with tequila in it. So this thing could get ugly fast. There's going to be breweries out there, just a bunch of people hanging out, celebrating Believe in the Run, and the guys over at the Drop, guys and gals, I guess. So Ben Johnson's going to be there, Kafuzi, hopefully Kira shows up. But yeah, just a lot of really cool people, and it was insane that Thomas mentioned us not once but twice on an Instagram live video in the same sentence as these people. And I mean, I almost fell out of my chair because we just have no business being mentioned with those people.
Yeah, I think we're pretty badass ourselves. I think I use that. I know I use that word every time we do get together.
Favorite word?
Badass and awesome.
Yeah, well, that's okay. But yeah, no, it's going to be a badass time. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Somebody ever want to play a drinking game on our podcast?
Yeah.
Every time they say awesome or badass, take a shot.
You would die.
You would, but it's going to be, it really is going to be cool. What we started off months ago in doing, and then how it's kind of, we've been able to meet some pretty interesting people and goodness, even some people that have been following us, looking forward to, seeing us out there. And I'm stoked. It's just going to be an awesome, a great experience that, I feel like it's once in a lifetime, and for the wives to give us the time off.
Yes,
from the
greatly
kids.
appreciated. Thank you very much, my lovely wife, Kristen. This will actually be the first time that I've left her with both kids. So I've never missed an entire day of Sophie's life, ever. So this will be new.
But we did a good job though leading up to this. We didn't know when we needed to use that card because Kristen, she's gone up to Virginia to see her girlfriends a couple times. Adria, she's going to Charleston for a bachelorette party. She's been to Indiana to see her family. I was like, I got the girls, because I knew that
you gotta have one in your back pocket.
And here we are. Sure. We're cashing it in this weekend. But before we go and have that fun in Baltimore, we have this awesome episode coming up next. What was the coolest thing about speaking to these dudes?
Well, first of all, these dudes are way, way, way smarter than either one of us. Okay, so
I agree with that.
The background that these guys have is incredibly impressive. What they've been able to do within the shoe and running space has just been incredible. And the leap of faith that they have taken to leave the stability of the biggest names in athletic shoes, Nike, Puma, Under Armour, to leave those guys, to leave those gigantic names and to go off and do their own thing is just incredible. You know, the trust in each other that takes, the just flat out balls, man. You got to have big old brass ones if you're going to walk away from that, and a supportive family as well. So, talking about Kevin Fallon and David Dumbro from Speedland. So hope you guys enjoy the interview. We'll catch you on the other side. All right, guys, welcome back, everybody. So, Kev, before we get to our guests, I got a couple rapid fire questions for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we have had on world-class runners, correct?
We have, yes.
All right. We've had on world-class triathletes, correct?
We have, yes.
All right. We've had on coaches, shoe reviewers, race directors, doctors, all these different things, right?
All the above, yes.
All right, cool. We're missing one, though. We're missing shoe designers and developers, but that ends right now. So, guys, joining us on the show today, we have Dave Dumbro and Kevin Fallon. They are the founders of Speedland. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How are you tonight?
Great. We're doing well. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So you guys have a new shoe, right? So it is the SLPDX, and this is a shoe that is turning the trail world on its head. Can you tell us a little bit about the shoe and kind of where it came from and why you decided to do it?
Sure. Let's start just maybe real big picture. We saw both of us have a passion for the outdoors, and we have a long history, obviously, in shoe design. But we had this passion to create the best of the best, right? This idea on a really simple level of no compromises. And we can get into what that means. But basically, what if you could build the best trail shoe at every turn and shoot with the best partners around the world? What would that look like? And that kind of set us down a course for Speedland.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think some of the things that we are trying to do are, we didn't want to just do another shoe. We wanted to do things a little bit differently. And so, to position ourselves, we really wanted to say, hey, what's happening in trail world today is pretty remarkable. The races and the distances these athletes are covering are remarkable. And if there's anywhere where it borders on equipment more than just shoes, it's this space. And so it just felt like a great opportunity for us to serve athletes that are kind of pushing that limit and put together the best of the best in a way that hasn't been done before.
So you mentioned a couple words there. So as far as compromising, not compromise the quality, and with your guys' background, you obviously probably know what that compromise looks like. And then Kevin, you mentioned another word, equipment, because I think after looking into the magazines and going on to the websites and following you guys on different social media sites, I see that word equipment. And I think that's just very neat because you don't necessarily see that with specifically for any type of running. But talk about the compromise. So when you were mentioning, Dave, about the compromise, what was it that both of you guys have saw that, we see this happen quite a bit. Let's do a little bit different. So can you talk to us a little bit about what was maybe exciting about, we're not going to cut a corner here. We're going to find a way to excel through this piece here.
Right. And so the shoe industry, big picture, the shoe industry, there's things it starts with. And one thing is a brief, and that gives you kind of the basis of what you'd go after as a shoe designer, developer, whatnot. But there's also in that brief is always an FOB, the cost that you need to build the shoe to. And we just, had always dealt with that for over 20 years. And we just said, what if you didn't have to deal with that? And would you make different choices? And we just started looking at all the, I guess we would say, performance attributes of a trail shoe, and such as fit or traction or cushioning or protection. And we just said, what if we could just do the best of the best at each one of those, performance attributes? And that just leads to partnering with the best people, and it changes the whole approach. And like Kevin said, that starts to get us down the equipment path, which is, more similar in respects to, maybe high-end cycling shoes or, even bikes, mountain and road bikes, or skis, or, more in that vein, which just changes the whole discussion for us. Because at the core, both of us, I guess, would say we're gearheads, and we have all these other things in our life beyond just shoes. And so we're kind of always cross-pollinating, all the worlds around us, I guess, personal interests as well. So,
yeah. And I think, we're obsessing on every little detail. And so as an example, carbon fiber plates, right? It's a buzz. It has been a buzz for a while. Everyone knew it was going to come to trail. And sure enough, it's in a bunch of different trail products now, some better than others, because I think it's not as simple as just taking a super stiff carbon plate that works great on the road and throwing it into a product with some lugs on it and calling it a trail shoe. They're very different animals. And we found with our partnership with Carbitex, for instance, that this carbon does things that normal carbon, I'll say, doesn't do. It gives you some propulsion, but it's very flexible in the opposite direction. So in other words, on the trail, you still get some conformability with that carbon. It's not real harsh and it's not levering you around. But when it comes to toe off, you've got good propulsion there. So really thinking about, hey, what is the optimal performance that I want for this particular component? Who's got it? And how do we best build it into the shoe is kind of how we went about it, rather than, well, I've got $2 for the midsole and I've got $1.50 for this. What can we afford? Which, I guess it works in certain instances. There's some decent product out there, but if we're going to try something and do something on our own, we really wanted to see kind of where we could push this idea of hyper performance and I guess the edge of equipment in footwear.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder a little bit about the plate, because I actually read that today, that it's very stiff one way and flexible the other, and I just thought that was incredibly cool. But the customization of the shoe, the ability of the wearer, the owner of the shoe, to customize it in really every way possible, that was clearly a conscious decision that you guys made. Was there anywhere where, and I know the whole slogan is no compromises, but is there anywhere where you were like, yeah, maybe customization here is not ideal? Or was it just, hey, let's let the user customize everything down to the lugs?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There is a lot of options, right? But we've actually simplified it quite a bit at the beginning on purpose, right? We're not trying to overload the user. We say all the time, it's going to run great, right out of the box. That's not going to be even a question. But as you experience the product, you can have those options to go further along if you want. But it also lets us, there's different levels of customization. So when we get into the elite level and we're talking about even race specific customization, it lets us even go that far if we want to. So it's kind of like, you can customize it as far as you want to go. And I think it's pretty cool that, you can customize it exactly like the elites. If that's what you want to do, you have that option. But by no means are we necessarily pushing that. That's if it's right and you're that type of runner consumer that wants to go that path.
Yeah, I think we don't want to have it be where it intimidates people, right?
No.
Where they feel like, oh gosh, there's so much here that I don't get it. It's not for me, because it shouldn't be that way. And there's always education that has to go along with stuff, and we understand that the idea of taking the plate out or trimming the lugs is going to be new for consumers, and we'll just have to see which ones kind of raise up to the top and which ones are asking for more of. We can envision a future of being able to customize the firmness of your midsole and your plates and your traction level and all of that, but we're not going to do it if nobody's looking for it either, right? So it's kind of that we'll crawl, walk, run approach to this customization. It's built in. We're going to use our elites to prove it and validate it, and we'll see where consumers demand it.
That's great, because reading about this shoe, I think what a lot of runners will find, and again, just speaking to some colleagues and some friends about it, you look at the shoe and it's just, the shoe's intimidating in a good way. The color, the design, And then there's in reading up more about it, the Duo BOA lacing system that you have. So I've had some shoes before and running triathlons. I like how I can just slip right into it, click, and just be on my merry way. But never have I seen two. And I read up about it, and I just like, that's an awesome idea. But what was, so I'm going to ask you, but what was the concept in actually having not one, but two of the BOA mechanisms to keep the shoe on?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's really important, and it's a key thing that we think it offers better fit, and fit's really important to us. And what the dual allows you to do is it allows you to really isolate the forefoot and midfoot separately from the heel. And that's really key in the sense, especially when you're talking about, elites runners who can really feel the difference. They might want to loosen up the heel on a certain, part of the course, or they might want to loosen up the forefoot on a certain part of the course, and they might want to crank it down. And it just gives you the option to really isolate that zonal fit concept, which we think is super important. And, the two doesn't really show up in running much. Maybe it has a little bit here and there, but not much. And the dials we're using definitely don't show up in running. They show up in a high-end cycling. And that's also where you see some of the two dials, right? And some of the high-end cycling shoes. And they do it for a similar reason, that you can really get that fit locked in. So that's, from our research and other products that we've seen, we just felt like the two dial offer, it was worth going to that extreme because it really offered you that precision fit that we didn't see from the one dial ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's the no compromise filter that we were trying to use. I think once we made the decision to go with BOA, which for us was, we've been bullish on BOA, we believe in them. And with the Li2, I think we felt like this fit system was next level. And then beyond that, they've invested heavily. They've done biomechanics research. They're showing there's, 5 to 9% gain in agility if you use BOA for your closure versus a traditional lace. Now, agility doesn't relate directly to trail, but I think consumers will understand it's more akin to agility drills than road running. So, your closure needs to be appropriate. And so if there's an actual performance gain out of them, we're all in, because we're into the aggregation of marginal gains, right? I mean, these athletes will take every advantage they can get, and Next Percent has proven it can work in footwear. And, we want to put anything that's got that potential advantage into our products.
And this BOA is a little unique, correct? In that it can go both directions you can loosen and tighten without completely having to undo the system, correct?
Right. It goes both directions without having to pop it out. Yeah. Which is a major advantage, when you're just dialing things in on the fly. Right. It's just much, much easier. And you have very little precision increments, which, is subtle, but super important when you're talking about, on the trail fit. So it's unmatched, as far as what BOA offers and what we think, the best in fit offers as well. And
we love that the Li2 has the soft lace as well. It's not a coated cable. I think the coated cables for snow sports are great, but they've always been a little bit tricky when it's come to footwear. And so the soft lace allows the soft guides, and it just makes for a really nice fit experience across the board.
Now, after reading, there's so many pieces of the shoe, so many parts of the shoe that I love, but that definitely is one. I just came off my very first Ultra, and one of the things I didn't realize, I knew going into, but just how swollen that foot gets as the race continues on. And what I wear, the endorphins.
He wore the endorphin shift in the 1080 version 11 from New Balance.
Got it.
And by mile 70, I looked like my wife when she was 9 months pregnant, where my ankles were just
careful.
I looked gorgeous, but like my wife at 9 months. And but no, I could just feel my foot just wanting to just burst out of this shoe, and to have something on that during race day, and as the race conditions change, not only with the terrain, but with your body. I just thought that was a really neat concept. And then trail running itself. And For Kevin Dave, so you guys like to be outside, but trail running how much have you seen this sport within the last couple years explode, and how much, I guess this is kind of just a rhetorical question, but did that play into, this is what we have to do, is create the best piece of equipment for trail running? So 2-part question. What have you guys seen from your vantage point as far as with trail running and the popularity with the sport?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, especially in Portland here where we are, I mean, we've seen it explode and we've felt that. But I can honestly say that we've always been passionate about the outdoors, right? That's just been on our DNA and growing up in our life. So it's great that it's exploded, and we're really excited about that. Didn't have anything to do really with us going into this space, though. We were always in this space in our head, so that it's just a nice, coincidence, I guess, in that sense. And we love it that the more we see more people out on the trails than ever before. And I think the data, it's not just us saying that, right? I think the data around the country shows it, but either way, we this is a life passion for us. So trail was always going to kind of be our thing, and outdoors in general. So, yeah.
So I'm going to go back to the construction of the shoe a little bit, because this seems to be a pretty unique way of doing it, at least coming from a road runner perspective. And I got to tell you, this shoe is kind of making me want to go tear up some trails. We got some pretty decent ones around here. So I'm going to have to get a trail shoe into my rotation, much to the dismay of my wife. But so let's walk through this a little bit. So you have the outsole with the lugs, and then it's a moccasin on top of that, correct? With the drop-in midsole, you've got the carbon sandwiched in between there, and then you have another layer on top. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Sort of. There's a midsole between
Very
the
simple.
upper and the outsole.
Okay.
And, so the plate is kind of on the bottom of the drop-in, so it's effectively sandwiched in between 2 midsoles, but it's just not bonded in.
Yeah. And the main midsole is the drop-in midsole. That's the Pebax midsole that,
Right.
Is really up against your foot and giving you kind of that lightweight but lively feel.
So with that shoe, I've been eyeing that shoe, and I want your guys' honest feedback. Well, so with what Gray and I do, Gray has the traditional running and I just say running background. He's been getting into triathlons. So I've been doing triathlons for quite a while. And one of the races coming up in December that I'll be going to with my wife, we'll be going to Chile. We're going to do the Patagonman X-Tri. So that course, so the run marathon at the end is all off road. So granted, this is a trail running shoe. Would you guys recommend your shoe for a race like the Patagonman?
In some ways, it kind of sounds perfect. And then what we'd have to say is, what's the actual? This is where we dive into the terrain, right? Like if it's more like a gravel or like a fire road type terrain, let's say, we would say cut the lugs. You trim through you can trim the top lugs, which is 3 millimeters high. Cut all the top lugs off, so then you have still a 3 millimeter lug, and that'll does a couple things. One, it's perfect for like a fire road or something like that, and it actually cuts the weight, so you've actually trimmed weight off the shoe as well. So that's where we get into like specific things where like, okay, do this because this is what's going to be perfect for, say, fire roads, gravel terrain, and whatnot. So yes, and with the BOA and everything else, carbon plate, it would be a perfect shoe for that.
Awesome. And you're in the water at some points, walking over rocks. But that was the reason why I asked that. So then when somebody has somewhat of a specific terrain or there's multiple terrains, so how do you educate the consumer on that? So they when they have the shoe, how would somebody be able to know, okay, this is what I need to do with the lugs? If they didn't necessarily have the technical background, it's just your average Joe picking it up.
Yeah, I mean, we've got content on the website that we hope they'll find, kind of a user's manual that walks through a little bit on trimming the lugs and taking the plate in and out. We hope if there were any questions, they'd just reach out directly. It really is just Dave and I. So, and we hope to have kind of social content that we'll post as well, that just little kind of how-tos. And so, we hope that we can use all the tools at our disposal to make it less intimidating for people who want. And, ultimately, we want to hear from people what they're doing or what they found works or doesn't work. It's kind of a little bit of that crowdsourcing that's available. With our athletes, we can work directly with them. Once we start selling product, we still want to hear from people what they're doing or what they want more of, less of. That's the interesting part.
Yeah. And some will be,
go ahead.
No, I would say some things are a little more obvious. Not obvious maybe to everybody, but in the easier answers, I guess, where, if somebody says, oh, they're living in Southern California or Arizona or something, a drier climate, let's say, it's going to be pretty easy for us to be like, yeah, we've run those trails. We know that territory, clip the lugs.
Right.
Or, if you're somewhere else, like, in the Pacific Northwest, where for a good portion of the year, obviously it's wet, we'd say, keep the lugs long. There's no reason to club them. You're going to come out, you're going to have some mud interaction. It's going to be better to keep them long. So, sometimes it's going to be easier for us to suggest. Sometimes it is going to be kind of we'll have to make a decision and we can help coach people through it, hopefully.
Awesome. So you mentioned buying the shoe or selling the shoe. Where can people buy it? What's the timeline look like on it?
It's on our website. So we're at runspeedland.com, and we're direct to consumer only right now. And we're taking pre-orders essentially until mid-August, when we should have product to deliver.
Yeah.
Very cool. So the crowdsourcing piece, I think that's very interesting that you're getting that. And you guys were just at a race not too long ago, a few weeks ago, correct? Got to see an awesome race.
We were at Western. Yeah, that was amazing.
Can you tell us a little bit about that trip?
Sure.
And,
I mean, that was just
Uh-oh.
Kevin, Dave.
Oh no. Well, Two Dads Run podcast first.
anyone who's interested.
Hey, Kevin, can you guys hear us?
We lost you there for a minute.
Yeah. Oh, we lost you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome. Oh, we're back though.
Okay.
Well, we're just saying we were just really able to network with a lot of cool people while we were there. We had a pair of shoes we could kind of show people, and we had athletes, we had people from other brands, we had some random reps from other companies. I mean, we had a lot of fun interactions. We got to, see athletes that we had talked to on Zoom only. So it was nice to get face to face. So, it was good that people had heard about it and were interested. And it was great to see the race and get some feedback. And we'll be at Leadville is another big one for us. One of our athletes, Don, is running that race. So we'll be there supporting him and, talking to more people. Yeah.
Nice. So what's some of the feedback that sticks out from that trip? Positive and even maybe very constructive that the two of you were maybe looked at each other and like, wow, didn't necessarily think of that. Did you walk away with any feedback of that type?
Well, yeah, I mean, feedback tends to be oftentimes, different places, but similar feedback, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there's two different things. One, there's feedback when people put the shoe on. Yeah. And we get an instant sensation. Fortunate for us, they usually have another trail shoe on the other foot. So then they instantly can compare the fit of our product against theirs. And that's always a fun discussion because we know we have better fit. So
easy win.
So
nice.
That's the instant win. Yeah, we like that. So we go through the shoe and we get feedback on fit and we get feedback on some of the performance things. And candidly, the other thing we get a lot of feedback on or a lot of discussion, I guess, is the price. Yeah. Because this is going to rarefied air as far as the price of this shoe. There's really not another trail shoe in that zone. So, that's an interesting discussion, but it's one we like to have because we can really talk about the parts, why it costs what it costs, why we think of it as equipment. And then I think once we have that discussion, oftentimes in person, it's understood, and then we can kind of go back and forth. But it is a point that is brought up not only on social a lot, but it's also brought up in person with us a lot. So that's always, kind of an interesting, fun discussion to have.
And so what is that price point? Because I'm sure you haven't made it in 24 minutes into most podcasts before being asked that question.
No, we haven't.
Right, you're right.
375.
Okay, fair enough. So I can understand why. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's up there, but it's up there. But for us, when we think of it, honestly, we start to put it in the realm of cycling shoes and some other things. And then it starts to really, be in that zone. So it's not so crazy. And like the honest truth is, like, we use the best parts, and the price kind of became the price because we use the best stuff. And that's kind of is what it is. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we made it really inexpensive and made the price really high. It's kind of the exact opposite. We just used the best of the best, and the price then revealed itself, basically. So that is honestly how we worked it. And I think that's just a different way to work, and it's a different dynamic and different challenge, but that's kind of how we got to where we got to. And also why it's in some ways different than any trail shoe that's out there, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes back to that word that you had mentioned earlier. I think it was you, Kevin, but equipment. When I saw the price and then I saw the description and it said equipment, and it just made sense. I mean, with trail running, you're running on all types of terrain, and you need to take care of the most important piece for this sport, which are your feet, your ankles, and making sure your toes. I mean, with the whole entire shoe, it takes care of that package. So I immediately went to my bike when I first started with triathlons, and it was an aluminum frame, and I didn't know anything about carbon frames, but I just knew there was a...
Yeah, I was about to say, so Kevin is a triathlon guy, and so the 375 to those guys it's a drop in the bucket, man. I mean, they're just like, I eat 375 for breakfast,
It's the shittiest thing. That's like one race entry.
Yeah.
It's a pair of pedals on this new bike.
Mm-hmm. So I told my wife she's known about the show ever since we were able to secure the spot with you guys. But all I've been doing is talking about the shoe, and I've yet to tell her the price because she knows how I am with these types of things. So well, hopefully she doesn't listen to this show for a while, and I can plant that seed a little bit more, water. It's
good luck. Good luck with that. So guys, I want to backtrack just a little bit. So we jumped right into the shoe and kind of made it seem like you guys are just a couple of dudes in a workshop putting together a shoe and asking people to pay $375 for it. So you guys have an extensive background, and you guys, you're definitely, some of the biggest wigs we've had on this show. So tell us a little bit about your background, what you've come from, and just shoes in general.
Sure. So just, I'll keep it pretty high level so we don't get too deep here, but both Kevin and I met at Nike 20 years ago or so, maybe a little longer. And at that time we were actually doing basketball. So I was focused on designing inline basketball shoes. Kevin was on the innovation side in basketball. And then eventually we made our way to Puma, and Kevin was working in Germany. I was working in Boston. We were both heading up teams, working on a number of categories, including running. And then from Puma, we made our way to Under Armour together. And again, similar pattern here, I guess, where Kevin was heading up innovation for footwear, and I was heading up inline design. So we kind of always had that relationship of working back and forth. And we were fortunate to be at Under Armour for a while and kind of build that growth story in footwear. It was really, quite small when we got there and rather large when we left. So we were able to experience a great growth story there. And then, it kind of led us into Speedland and kind of how can we follow our passions and really do what we want, and this whole no compromise approach. So we've been at a number of big companies together. Want to add anything?
I don't know. You covered it pretty well. Yeah, down.
but it wasn't planned that way at all. It just happened to work out that way, correct? That your paths just ended up taking a very similar road, and
Well,
there was one
at our move to Under
Or was
Armour.
it, hey, Dave, guess where I'm going next? And you got to
Well, yeah, it was a kind of a funny story because we were at an offsite meeting while we were at Puma, and because I was in Germany and Dave was in Boston, we didn't see each other every day. We saw each other 6 times a year or something. But anyway, we were both kind of like, this isn't kind of going the way that I thought. I'm starting to look around, and I said the same. And it took us 5 minutes to figure out we were both talking to Under Armour. And then we were like, is it for the same job? We had that brief hesitation, and then we figured out, no, it wasn't for the same job. It was this innovation inline thing. So that was the first time we moved in a coordinated way. And I think for me, knowing Dave was going to be on the inline side to transition advanced concepts and innovations to, gave me a little more confidence in going to what was at the time, a new footwear brand. Going to Under Armour was no given at that time. So anyway, I think that relationship side of that helped, I think, for both of us in terms of having confidence going to a pretty new thing like Under Armour.
Yeah.
So Speedland, and just when did the first conversations, who brought up the first conversation that, hey, you want to maybe design the most badass trail running shoe ever? And then how did the conversations then go on? And then to the point where you named where Speedland actually came from? Yeah.
So I guess independently, I would say it's fair to say that both of us coming out of Under Armour both wanted to follow kind of our own passions, right? And it just so happens that both of us have different but similar passions within the outdoors. So we already kind of had a synergy there, but we were already kind of in our own mindset wanting to do that, I would say, independently regardless. But then when we left, we decided that it would be fun to partner up and start this idea called Speed Hack. I don't know if you guys saw any of the Speed Hack episodes.
Yeah, sure did.
And so Speed Hack, I mean, many of the things, maybe not intentionally, but many of the things that we did in Speed Hack started to maybe inform some ideas within Speedland. And the whole premise with Speed Hack, right, was to take different products and see if we could make them faster in some way or better, or in some cases just have fun and do something different with them. But this whole idea of, breaking things down, tinkering, building, we're both builders at heart. So we kind of just got our hands dirty and did a little differently. And that Speed Hack was really useful and started to solidify in some very organic way of what Speedland was going to become, I think.
Yeah, I think it got us working differently. You get 20 some years into a career and you kind of know what's coming, the next thing, and how to put that tech pack together, that presentation. And it I won't say it becomes rote, but it just becomes familiar territory. And Speed Hack, taking things apart and trying to put them back together here in the shop, it was just, we were just kind of hacking it and making it work, and having that stepping back into that, it was almost like being at art school again, and just kind of having this, I don't care how it looks. It changed our process, I think, is where I'm going with it, in terms of, I don't think we would have landed in the same solution if we hadn't done Speed Hack. And it's not so much one thing or another, it was more just that, like, we built 2 or 3 different models of the shoe, which, when you've done this for a long time, you're not making a model of your shoe anymore. You're sketching it out, you go right into Illustrator and you're gone, But to sit down and do Bondo and really build a model, a couple of them for us was, I think it was kind of fresh for us to step back and do something different like that. So it was a process change altogether.
Yeah.
Well, and in full disclosure, we already had the interview on the books with you guys. And when I started watching some of the videos, I'm like, okay, they're making a Convar 10 into a trail shoe, and they're using mountain bike tires to make the outsole. I'm like, that looks awfully familiar. So it was kind of cool to see some of the elements that you guys did on Speed Hack, be reborn into the PDX.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we definitely, like I said, I don't know if it was all intentional, but we left some breadcrumbs there. And the Convara one is interesting because there's a float, it's not done the same way and you can't remove it, but there's a floating plate, in that hack. And that had never really been done, and so we kind of almost in some weird way took that idea, but then changed it and morphed it into what we think is probably a better idea now. But it all does kind of connect, even if you don't intend for it to connect, I guess is the point. Yeah.
So obviously having a background with 3 of the biggest names in shoes, leaving the comfort of that, I guess, that stability there to go off and do your own thing takes a mighty big leap of faith. Were there definitely some concerns there? How did your family react to this? I don't know if you guys are married, but I know, I know the look that I would get if I was like, "Hey, hun, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to build a shoe," or whatever.
Yeah,
sure.
You're absolutely right. I think we're lucky. I mean, I won't speak for Dave, but at the end of the day, even if you have those kind of you want to do what conversations, we were still supported, I think, in this mission. And I think one of the great things is, what it does for you as a dad too. I mean, my dad started a company when I was 10, and it was really impactful, even though I didn't go into his family business or anything like that. You just learn stuff, you see that kind of, whether it's the work ethic or entrepreneurship or creativity, whatever it is. So that's something I think that's super important through all the process too. We wanted to see if we could make this work, try this zone that we're super passionate about and do it on our own, and set good examples for our kids along the way.
Yeah, I think both of our dads were risk takers in some capacity, right? And I think on some level we wanted to instill that into our kids as well. Calculated risks, of course, but this idea, that you can do anything you set your mind to. I think that's an important lesson, and we were up for it. And I think we've had a friendship for a long time, so being able to do it together. I'm not saying it didn't, we didn't have some trepidation, but it did make it a little less scary, because we could at least rely on each other and talk it through, which sounds silly, but it does help to be able to kind of bounce that back.
We got that advice from some people that tried to do it themselves too. Hey, have a partner. It's a lot better to have somebody else there with you.
Two minds are better than one for sure. Yeah.
Cheers to that. Cheers
Amen.
to that.
I mean, it matters.
And knowing Gray for goodness, 25 plus years, I mean, more than my wife, more than most people that I know, every time we get together, I still learn more things about Gray, his sense of humor. I'm like, yeah, maybe he did find that one for you. I should do that. But what if, and you guys, very similar relationship that where you've had this working relationship through multiple companies, some of the same experiences and even the same feelings. And, hey, I think it's time to maybe do something different. But now what would you say, since you guys have partnered on this journey with Speedland, have you learned about each other that you didn't necessarily know when you were doing, we'll say, quote, corporate America with Nike, Puma, Under Armour? So what's kind of been the one thing that you've learned? And I'll just stop there and you guys can just answer because I can keep going.
Yeah, I mean, on my side, I guess I would say that even within corporate America, hold on a second. You still there?
Yeah, we got you.
We're here.
Okay, good. Even in corporate America, I would say that, it always comes down to the word trust. And I know that's maybe an overused word, but, if you really have the honest trust, I think that kind of changes how you approach things. But then I would say on my side, it's just, we both have strong opinions about things and we don't always agree, but the ability to listen to somebody else's point of view and really think about it and then realize like, maybe I don't actually have the best answer, and be open to that. Even when you had a really strong opinion at the start, I think that's it's so valuable. It's not just valuable with us, but it's valuable even in the corporate world. And, it's something that we didn't always see. So for me, that's the kind of relationship that we have where it's, people like to say fight like family. We don't really fight that much, but we do have heated discussions sometimes about things and we listen to each other and that all comes back to trust and respect. And that's what I think makes a successful relationship for us, at least. I don't know what you.
Yeah. I mean, I think to answer your question, my answer would be similar that, the things that have surprised me or that I've learned about Dave on this adventure have to do with just, how much other things he can do and handle. I think we both knew what each other could do in terms of design and footwear, but we have to do so much more than that now. We're juggling a business, small as it may be. We still have to do all these things that we weren't doing, we didn't have to do. And so I think we've had a pretty natural progression of, okay, you're going to take this part and I'll handle this part and we'll check it all off. But, it's just interesting to see your partner learning, growing, surprising you with what they can do outside of what you already knew. To answer that question as succinctly as I can.
Yeah, we just got to get it done. And we don't really care who gets it done sometimes, right? We just got to get it done. And so there's not like, oh, I'm better for this, or you're better for that. It's just like, just move, be nimble, get it done.
It's a pretty big shock to the system when you find out that there's no more accounting department, IT department, or
right.
R&D and all these other things, and that you are all of those. You're wearing all of those hats.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's certain things that, Kevin lends himself better towards than me and vice versa. So we kind of intuitively know that. So if it's, say, Kevin also has an engineering degree from Brown. So, if it's engineering related, even if I can answer some of it, I tend to kind of, Kevin, come on, lean in here, you do it, and push it more towards him. So there's certain things where we know each other's strengths and weaknesses to a degree. So yeah, it's pretty seamless though. I have to say we just go. And that's a key difference between maybe some of our corporate past where you get bogged down meetings and, what's the paralysis by analysis, all that stuff. Yeah. We don't have any of that. We just go.
Very cool. So, and you guys are obviously in that growth phase. I see it picking up. I mean, trust me, I look at the comments. I like seeing what people have to say about it. And you mentioned you're going to Leadville. So the mountain bike race just finished up, I believe, about a week or two ago, right? Most recently.
Yeah. Not sure on the exact dates on that.
Yeah. I'm also not sure.
But yeah, we'll be there in like August 20th.
Okay. And watching that, I mean, that's definitely a bucket list. So that's another seed I got to plant at some point with the wife to try to make it out there. But, and so for 2021, it's been obviously an odd year, somewhat a very, I think with a lot of small companies too, in our hometown in Raleigh, North Carolina, I see more people in the running shops, the locally owned shops. But what goals do you guys have set for 2021? What do you want to see, or where do you want to see yourselves? Where do you want to see your family? Where do you want to see Speedland at the end of 2021?
That's a good question. I mean, I think we're really in the phase of establishing ourselves as an authentic brand in this space. So, if we've made some strides in that department, I think that's a plus. By the end of the year, for sure, we'd like to be on to our next build, our second build of product, and a chance to tell that story. So that means, we have the ambition to be sold out of this first build. We built small numbers. I don't think we're overreaching too far, but we understand it's no small ask that we're asking people here and building a new brand. So it's going to take some time, and we're willing to put in that work. So I think we want to continue to do what we can to invest in the community, in all the ways we can. We've got a great local community, a great group that we've started to tap into now, who are looking at accessibility for kids and, other ways people can get out on the trails and changing the event landscape. And, so we want to be a part of all of that, I think, too, locally, and get a chance to grow beyond that. But, that's kind of, I think, what we hope to put those pieces in place to have our athletes authenticating us on the trails, and, have some satisfied consumers out there, and be on a path to, continue to tell our kind of customization story as we get into 2022. Yep.
So I know you can't predict the future, but the trail running shoe, again, fantastic. But do you see Speedland maybe venturing into strictly road running? And then talking with you, I remember when I first started, Newton's and Zoot, they had this phenomenal, very fast transition running shoe where it's just slipping in very light. Do you guys see yourselves maybe designing shoes outside of trail running?
Well, our answer for, I think, everything, even beyond shoes, people have asked us, so what other products are you going to do? And if we can do it, if we think we can bring an edge and do something better than what's offered and gives us a reason to be, then we'll do it. You know, if athletes pull us there and say, yeah, I need a better hydration pack, or I need a better road shoe, you know, we would jump in and be like, yeah, let's figure it out. Let's do it. And we'll do it with you, you know, partner with us and let's figure it out. But that would have to be the case, you know, and there's a lot of good road shoes out there right now. So, you know,
it's hard to imagine going into the marathon racing ring right now. You know, there's just so many excellent products out there, and, you know, all respect to Nike, it's a tough battle to pick, where I think, you know, trail isn't as big for them. It's not big enough for them to care, and at least at the level that they do for the road. You know what I mean? There's some good shoes. Don't get me wrong.
I caught that laugh. I caught that.
Yeah, I mean,
if you like slippy outsoles,
they care. They might just care a little more on the roadside.
Yeah.
A lot more. Yeah.
Well, that innovation's happening super fast.
Yeah. For a lottery, that's where a lot of money is, right?
Right. And it's a totally different thing.
Follow the money, but yeah. I mean, our answer is, I think, like we said, we're really into gear, so we would love to go into a lot of different things if we had a reason to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think all of that sounds amazing. I can't wait to see what happens. And I'm gonna.
I don't want to see the shopping cart after all that's done.
What is the name of the color? Because it's very unique and very dope. I really like it a lot.
Well, we call it Speedland green.
Okay.
I mean, that's
we were really, we got inspired by a few different things, you know, that kind of greenish, bright green you get in the forests up here in Pacific Northwest in the winter really pop like that. And we also loved the Michelin reference to their Wild Gripper tires that were so popular in the 80s. They had a similar green. So that's kind of why we went with that for our first color.
Cool.
Dope color.
Guys,
sure.
Where can our listeners find you on either social media or your website?
Sure. You can find us, Run Speedland is kind of our across the board. So runspeedland.com on the web, and then Run Speedland on Instagram as well. And what else?
Facebook, YouTube.
Yeah, Run Speedland is our basically handle. And then of course you can find us as well if you want on
that's right.
Speed Hack Kevin, Speed Hack Dave.
Love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really awesome chatting about shoes with you, and looking forward to big things for you guys. Hoping all the best for you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversations that we had with Kevin and Dave from Speedland. I tell you, if there's anything that I'm taking from that, it's just that, you know, to go follow your passion and your dreams, and how much fun and cool it is to do it with somebody that you trust a lot. So great. I'm going to tell everybody where they can find us and where they can find this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, please check us out on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you give us a rating, 5 stars only, thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find us on all the social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We are at Two Dads Run Podcast. You can also email the show if you like, twodadsrunpodcast@gmail.com. And thank you to all of you for listening. Thank you to our producer, Eric Hollister, E-Dub, back in Florida for making us sound good. Well, as good as we possibly can. He's not a magician, but yeah. And thank you guys for listening every week. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.